Hi guys, welcome to the show. My guest today is BJJ Blue Belt Scum Onnig Kouyoumdjian.
It's time to high five and fist bump. A Jiu Jitsu podcast for the everyday grappler. Let's talk subs. Let's talk positions. Let's talk dominating the mats. Welcome to the Let's Talk Jiu Jitsu podcast with Raymond Terrence.
Welcome again.
Hi there.
So just so everyone understands, we actually did a podcast last week. We did an episode. We recorded it. We were using these mics I bought on Amazon.
Fancy.
Yeah, the little clip-on ones. And the audio turned out horribly. But now we have beautiful mics that record perfectly, so we're going to do it again. I'm hopefully not going to ask the same questions I did last time. But
no one heard them, so
it doesn't really matter.
Doesn't matter.
How was Jiu Jitsu today?
Good.
Tell your story about the white belt pulling guard.
No, I was just telling Ray I went to class today, and it was a no-gi class, and I was in a clinch with someone, and I guess he's just started training, and he decided to jump guard. And I guess I happened to react where I felt him kind of land on my knee extended, and I happened to pull my leg out of the way, and we end up in guard. So he got what he wanted.
Yeah.
But right there and then
You felt it, right?
I felt it, and I stopped the roll. I go, listen, bro, you can't jump guard, or we're in practice here. You're gonna hurt someone.
Yeah.
Because you don't know. He apologized. He just didn't know. But just be aware, guys. Don't jump guard. There's no medals in class.
No. And I'm curious if that's like a policy in other schools too. Like, I wonder if like someone says something, or it's just eventually if someone's like, hey, you're not supposed to do that, or maybe some schools must just allow it right off the bat.
I don't know. I know that in classes we've talked about pulling guard, different ways of pulling guard.
Way different than
which is not jumping guard.
Right.
And then at the same time, if you jump guard and miss, you land on the back of your head.
Yeah.
And for what? I don't know. But I'm chalking it up to lack of awareness. So whoever, the 12 of you that watch this, don't jump. Don't
12
jump,
white belts, yeah.
Don't jump guard, or at least don't jump guard with me.
I know sometimes, we'll have someone teach a class and they'll go through the motions of jumping guard, like the proper way. If you're going to jump, get your grips. And then if you see the guy jumping and you're the one standing, go into a squat position to like brace for the person's weight on you. But again, it's a lot of motions for someone to try to figure out. And again, your knees just sitting there.
But Ray, I think there's a nuance, because we have people that we train with that pull guard very dynamic.
Yeah.
And maybe the line between them jumping guard, what would be called jump, like I'll take Rob for example. Rob pulls guard.
Mm-hmm.
Rob is in the air when he's doing it, but his foot is on your hip.
Right.
He is going around.
So he's pulling guard.
It's a pull. Yeah, it's a dynamic pull. From the outside, someone might not know. It looks like, he's not off and both feet trying to wrap around you, and but again, don't listen to me. I'm just a humble blue belt.
The only time I'm actually in that position is if someone is in my closed guard and they stand up and I happen to just stay latched on. That's as far as I go, being levitated with someone in my guard.
Which is not jumping guard.
Which is not jumping guard.
And like if you would have landed on my thigh, around the waist,
would have been okay.
It would have been it would have been a non-topic. It was just the fact that the knee only bends in one direction, or it's supposed to. So.
And that was a no-gi class.
It was a no-gi class. It was an open mat no-gi class.
Open mat no-gi class.
So it happened.
It happens. It's part of it, unfortunately.
It's unfortunate, yeah.
And we spoke about that last time, that whole, white belts coming in and you being, the good guy and being like, hey, buddy, it's risky doing this for the person that you're doing it on because of the knee. And you had a conversation with him too, right?
Yeah,
so
I told him
he
after.
knows now.
Yeah, he knows.
Right. So hopefully he'll be a little smarter.
Again, you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
Sometimes when people say, oh, I rolled with this guy, this white belt. It's always the white belts. I can say that now because I'm not. The first time I was here was a white belt. So
Yeah.
But now I know they're scum, so it's okay. But they're like, oh, this happened or that happened. I'm like, yeah, but you picked them. You're on that side of the line.
Yeah.
So, and again, you want to, or maybe you don't. You want to give people opportunity. You were talking about how you want to give people opportunities to be able to roll with a higher belt,
right?
Which is fine until it's not fine.
Yeah. Yeah, I did it this week. I rolled with, I think, 2 white belts this week. Again, also thinking about that last conversation that we had about, picking lower belts and giving them opportunity and, maybe socializing with some people that I wouldn't normally socialize with just because the white belts tend to just come do classes and then they take off. They don't usually feel comfortable sticking around and having a conversation. But it was actually pretty good.
Yeah.
And usually, to be honest with you, is again, not to be sexist or anything, but I usually pick the women. If there are any girl white belts that are there, I usually pick them. They're usually a lot less spazzy than the guys,
right.
And they're just a little bit more like, should I put my hand here? And like, it's basically a 5 minutes of me talking to them while we're rolling, be like, no, put your hand here. Whereas if it was a guy, it'd be a little bit more spazzy and all over the place.
It's interesting because I heard this an opinion of you shouldn't be coaching when you're rolling. So now in your case, as a teacher, as a black belt, as you might be saying the right things.
Yeah.
I help with the kids classes. And sometimes I catch myself, even happened today. I was rolling with Vlad today. He was doing something with Fred earlier. We're throwing names, guys. If you don't know who they are, well, it doesn't matter. I was rolling with a younger gentleman who was doing something with our head instructor earlier in the day. And we got to a situation where I'm like, and he seemed like he was in a bit of a stalemate. I was in half triangle kind of thing, which he was trying to finish. And then I'm like, hey, here, you're in the exact same spot as you were, what you were working on. I'm like, look, pull my arm here, do this, do that. And it ended up being like an Americana, And we're like, oh. So part of me is kind of like, okay, do we highlight, should you be coaching when you roll? I guess it depends on who you're with. Because again, this is someone who I'll consider a student of mine also because I help out with his classes. Some people don't care. Don't want to know.
Yeah, I would say, I usually leave it up to them if they start not chatting, but if they'll be like, a lot of times they'll say, I don't know what I'm doing.
Right.
And that's where I'll be like, you're doing a good job. Just put your hand here, and then we'll continue. Right. And then I'll let them pass guard. They'll do a knee cut, and then after doing the knee cut, they'll be like, okay, not too sure what I'm doing. I'll be like, okay, well now your goal is this, and then we'll move on to the next. My cat just walked in. I'm just gonna kick my cat out. Get out of here!
See, this is live podcasting, gents.
This is quality podcasting.
Well, I think again the understanding of your partner. Like we've rolled and. There's been times where I'm like, here I am. Like you've either caught me in the same mistake where we talked about the week before. I'm like, oh, crap, or we discuss something and we get to a point and you're like, you almost coach me through the sequence or a sequence.
Right.
And, and I'm not oblivious to think, oh, look at that. I just sweeped you.
Yeah.
But it's almost trying to learn that a sequence of muscle memory to be able to, I use the analogy of tying your shoelaces when you're a kid. It's like make a bunny ear and do this and do that, as opposed to tie your shoes.
Right.
So some of the combination of moves is that you got to bring it to tie your shoe level.
Yeah.
As opposed to the bunny ears.
Yeah. Usually after rolls, doesn't really matter who I'm rolling with. I'll usually be like, hey, you did a good job on this.
Right.
Like I don't criticize, but I'll always throw like a little bit of positive something. I think I do that just naturally after every single roll when I roll with people.
Right.
I don't know why. Maybe it's like the teaching aspect or whatnot, but I always be like, oh, you did good this, or this was pretty impressive. Or I'll usually pick up on things when I'm rolling with people too. I'll notice something that I didn't notice the last time we rolled, maybe like 2 weeks ago.
Right.
And it's significant enough for me to be like, wow, that was pretty good type of thing.
And I'm saying as lower belts, we don't realize.
Yeah.
We don't know. We don't see progress.
Yeah.
We think we suck all the time.
Yeah.
So like I was rolling with Bina this week, and I was in her guard, and I'm like, pull the armbar. Oh, I'm like, just pull the armbar. It's there. Just pull it. And she did. I'm like, you see? Oh, I never want to pull the armbar because of this or that. I'm like, yeah, but worst comes to worst, you don't get it.
Yeah.
But by not pulling it, you still don't get it.
Yeah.
What do you lose? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But again, depending on like the guy, the guy I was rolling with today who jumped guard, like he was on the whole time. So that wasn't a roll where it was like, here, take a free shot, do whatever you need to do.
Yeah.
So I guess you got to judge, again, who you're rolling with.
Yeah.
You know, we were talking about last time about having good partners, you know. I'm fortunate to have good partners.
Yeah.
You know, shout out to the Blue Belt Mafia, Monday nights, Thursday nights, Wednesday nights, you know. No, but because you have an understanding of like, you know, as an older gentleman, and you know, I'm like, I don't like doing that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
So there's an understanding, you know, and that understanding is, you know, it counts. It's real.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
yeah, we had an interesting roll this week. I thought about it the next day. I was like, I can't believe, like, it was, and I started to understand what our instructor Fred would tell me from time to time. You know, he'll be like, I didn't respect your choke, or I didn't respect your grip. And then he's like, it's not going to happen again.
right.
You know, like those little moments that kind of make you feel good. You're like, I had him in something. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, I remember all those little moments where he would say that to me, and I'd be like, okay, I'm getting somewhere because I'm creating some type of trouble or a roadblock, right? I feel like I had that moment with you this week when you had that X choke on me. Just plain, simple,
Right.
hand in, X choke, and I was in your guard. And it was the first time I felt that with you, that I was like, he's gotten somewhere.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like I'm uncomfortable, right?
Fred talks about, I'm sure he has like a database of like, okay, I've let this person get to this point and I've been able to manage it.
Right.
And then
Can't
he's like,
do that
oh,
anymore.
now I got to turn it on to manage it. So I don't let you get to there anymore. So I think that's also the way he judges his students.
Yeah.
And that's why I think he periodically rolls with all of us.
Yeah.
Like he did it today. We have a green belt in the teens class who was in Vaudreuil. And at the end of the class, or like the last roll, he picked them. You know, he's like, and he doesn't usually roll in the teens class, but he's like, he goes, Eddie said it, it's been a while, let's roll. And I think it's just to fill in his file of like, okay,
Yeah.
where are we? Okay.
When you have that many students and you have to promote, I mean, I think it's important to do those little check-ins. He's lucky because he has a whole slew of black belts that when you get time to promotion time, that, you know, he'll go in the chat and be like, hey, what do you guys think? Do you guys have any promotions that stand out or whatever?
Right.
And then everyone puts their 2 cents, and then they might flag somebody that he didn't get a chance to see or row with over the months.
Or we talk about it after, or it's talked about
Oh, for sure.
after classes. So you're like, oh, you know, this guy is really doing
He's
this
doing better,
well,
yeah.
and that well, you know.
Yeah, and I think we do it a little differently. We only have promotions. For those that don't know, at Brazilian Top Team, we do it every 6 months.
Right.
So we only have belt promotions twice a year.
Right.
So you know, it's important that the higher belts, they'll say something about people that are doing a good job or that they're doing better, and even if it's just to slip in a couple words to Fred, so that way you put somebody on his radar, right? Because we're only doing it twice a year.
Right.
You know, in other places it'll just be random. Today this guy is getting his blue belt,
Right.
this guy is getting a stripe, which is another thing we don't do is stripes, right?
Not adults, no. We
Not
don't
adults.
do stripes.
No.
And it's okay. I think, you know what, again, I'm not one, as someone who was a white belt for a very long time,
Right.
and I think either due to COVID and then just opportunity of lack of rolling because of COVID and stuff like this.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll say it, I think that extra time, because again, we have a curriculum, and that extra time, you work on your curriculum for your belt level. So the extra time working on it, I think, help build a fundamental base.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay.
And the stripe is really, I think it's meant to just I don't know if it's for the kids. It's motivating.
Yes,
it's encouraging. It tells them that, hey, I'm recognizing that, you're here often, and you're not just quitting. For the adults, if you can't endure the suck of getting choked out all the time, which is going to happen in the beginning anyways, even all the way through, a stripe's not going to change anything.
No, I don't think so. No. But I don't think it's I don't find that our gym, at least during my tenure here, we don't, like when you line up, at least on the other side of the belt, everyone wants you to line up in front of them anyway.
Yeah.
I'm gonna, because we all kind of striped ourselves.
Yeah.
I'm like, this guy, no, I should be behind you. It's like, well, no, technically no. You should be behind those purple belts, and they should be behind those brown belts.
Right.
But other than that, bro, line up where you line up. It's okay. It comes out to the same thing.
The black belts do it all the time. I do it with one of the other black belts, Felipe. We got our black belts at the exact same time in November, and we don't remember who got their belt put on first, and we joke around about it all the time in line. And like, I force him to go in front of me, he forces me to go in front of him. So I think it's just good. It's fun. The only person I used to not want to line up next to was Guy when he was a blue belt, because he always picks the guy to his left, and I'm like, crap, I don't feel like getting smashed at this moment. I'm gonna, line up one guy next over. Yeah.
No, but I think the the politics not being there also puts into, like, I look at Pasquale. Pasquale has been a blue belt for a decade because he stopped training.
Yeah.
But in theory, I saw this picture, like from like the squash courts or something, and there's like this teen. I'm like,
is that him?
I send him to Peck. Is that you, bro? He's like, yeah, he was 17 at the time, and he's like, in his mid 20s now, because of circumstance. So getting a piece of tape, 4 years ago, and then life kind of smacks you in the face, and then you come back. But hey, maybe for others,
yeah. I think we're lucky in that regard. Is the whole politics behind jiu-jitsu and within a club, we don't see it, and that's because of our head instructor. Politics makes its way to the front door, and considering he has a desk at the front door, he always says that you guys don't hear about it. It's there, but I shun it away from you guys. I make sure it just gets to the front door, it comes to me, and then I don't let it get any further than me. So everyone can come to jiu-jitsu, train, joke around together, have fun, and no one has to deal with any of the politics of jiu-jitsu because I don't let it get through the front door. Right?
I think the biggest politics is, like, if we're rolling and I'm with a higher belt and someone rolls near us, we're stopped and we don't want to get kicked in the head.
Yeah.
And I turn to the other belt and go, hey, you see this guy? He's a brown belt. Or you guys got to move. Joke.
Yeah.
So,
but no, just overall politics also, like, of, when people talk about other clubs, or, this guy moved from, this club, or this jiu-jitsu black belt is no longer with that team and they switch, like, all that drama, which I guess people still mumble about from time to time. It just stops technically at our front door. Right. I have to say that in previous places, that's not the case. Like, it's a lot of that stuff. No, and I find it's just a waste of time.
Well, we have a group of grapplers from JKS who have been coming to Open Mat on Saturday. Nogi Open Mat.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
One of the guys, if I'm not mistaken, he's a blue belt at JKS who's the grappling instructor who's come a few classes. It's been maybe 4 classes that I've recognized. And the last couple of weeks, 1 or 2 guys who I guess train there and come to our Open Mat on Saturday. And all good guys, they're faces that we don't recognize. So you kind of don't know them. And I say that because most people that I roll with, I kind of know what I'm expecting before we start, because the person. You get
used to
people, but we also, I personally know them.
Right.
I'm like, I know what to kind of expect from this person. Yeah. So there's that kind of thing, which gives a little different dynamic. But, And I gotta caveat it by saying they're not like loud. They don't seem to be loud personalities walking across the gym like, hey, this, like
They just want to train.
They were just there to train.
Just
But
wanna train.
it was just kind of just like, oh, okay.
Yeah, we tried when I started off, I was with Gracie Baja, and I remember we tried to do a Sunday open mat, open to all academies, all affiliations,
Right.
no fee, no nothing, just to get the taste of rolling with somebody new, someone you're not used to. That got shut down real quick because it was getting really intense.
Okay.
And then you start realizing that, well, if people are active competitors, and we had a decent amount of competitors that would compete on a regular basis. When I say competitors, like people
Right.
that would almost do every tournament. You got guys from other clubs that are coming in that might end up in one of those guys' weight classes. At the end of the day, who cares? It's just a local tournament, and like, so be it.
But
whatever.
if that's what you're doing, that's what you're doing. Right?
Exactly. So, I mean, we tried it. It didn't work really well. I know there's another place locally here, actually not too far from here. Professor Charles McDonald, he runs West Island Jiu-Jitsu.
Okay.
And on Wednesday nights, they do a no-gi, and gi, but it's mostly no-gi, open mat, open to all clubs and affiliations.
Right.
I've done seminars there. I've gone to classes there just randomly. That is a place where I feel like anybody could just drop by, and it's a smaller academy, but it's so like homey that you're going to go, and like, there's no ego. Like, you're not afraid that like people are going to, heel hook you and rip your knee off. Like, the vibe I feel is a little different, just maybe because it's a smaller school. And again, a school is usually, the vibe of a school is usually determined by the guy running it. So, I mean, Charles is just a super down to earth guy,
Right.
and he just wants to learn, and he wants his students to learn, and having people come in from different academies with different experiences and at different belt levels is just beneficial for them in the long term.
Frequency of these things would also, I guess, dictate.
Right. Yeah.
You had Chris on here last week, and he was talking about when he travels.
Yeah.
Technically, that's kind of like you're walking.
It's like an open mat.
It's walking into a different gym all the time.
Yeah.
And he was saying, someone had told me, again, I plead ignorance here as a, I have a travel gi, which doesn't have colors,
Right.
or affiliations. And I'm like, who cares? Like, really, as far as I was concerned,
Yeah.
apparently it's a thing. I don't know.
It's a thing because it's weird to say, but you're a bigger target. And this is coming from somebody that I used to travel all the time for work. And I would bring a gi with me every time I traveled. I would wear my BTT gi.
Right.
And I could tell you, the moment you walk in with another affiliation gi, was much different than when I brought a generic gi with no branding on it. I don't know what it is, but the target got bigger if you were wearing your club gi. I don't know why.
I don't know. I
don't know
I
what it
plead
is.
ignorance.
Right.
Chris was saying that he goes and he, and don't get me wrong, he holds his own.
Yeah.
But he also, on his last trip to Europe, he was like, "Oh man, this guy kicked my butt," and we spent half a fundamental on how people were passing his bread and butter.
Yeah.
It's like, which is perspective, which is growth for him.
Yeah.
Awareness. So there's more positives than negatives, but
Yeah.
it's, I don't know. Again, as a weekend warrior, not even, it's interesting.
Yeah.
I'll
But
say-
you don't travel much for work, right?
No.
Right. Do you ever travel for work at all? Or
I do, but
tell everybody what you do, by the way. I don't think
I own a company that makes aerospace components. So landing gear parts and aerospace parts, people need components made, and they send us drawings and we machine them. It's a machine shop.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, I have traveled, but since I started jiu-jitsu, traveled very little. So there was one time I was in Kentucky and visiting family, and they're like, oh, you train jiu-jitsu now. There's a gym here. One of my cousin's friends trained somewhere at Derby City in Louisville. And I was just a white belt. I'm like, no, it's okay. I get smashed at home. Why am I going to get smashed on vacation?
Yeah.
But to each their own. But it's just an interesting dynamic that, or maybe it's a compliment to the program that, there's this, oh wow, they're wearing an affiliated gi. I'm like, okay, from the West Island of, Montreal.
No one knows.
No one
right,
knows.
No one knows at all. Yeah, I mean, there's that whole a discussion about also, club gis and, clubs that if you want to wear a pink gi, you could wear a pink gi.
Right.
And that's a whole other topic. I guess it's just club by club. I mean, it depends what you have going on, right? Some clubs don't even have an affiliation to anybody, right?
Some clubs, it's one color gi,
Yeah.
Doesn't
really matter to me. A lot of people will hate on it because they're like, I'm being forced to spend $200 on a club gi when I could spend $100 on just a generic jiu-jitsu gi. So like, why pay the difference? But in reality, typically people, how many gis do you own?
Now I own 3.
You own 3. Right?
I'm not counting the kid ones. So yes.
And how many years are you into jiu-jitsu?
I guess I'm going into year 4.
4? Okay.
And I gotta say, I own one. The second one, my brother started jiu-jitsu and kind of has been on a break from like week 3 till now, which has been like 3 years.
It's a long break.
So, and I
hope he's doing well.
Yeah, we happen to be the same gi size, so I'm like, you're not. You know what? Let me. Technically, it's still his gi, so
right. But you're borrowing.
I'm borrowing it.
Right.
And then, so that was I had a black one, then a blue one. I'm like, and then I ended up getting a white one. So
I had the same 3 gis,
which I rotate through.
Yeah, I think I had the same 3 gis. I just recently bought 2 new gis, but I had the same 3 gis forever. I never switched gis, and as I washed them every year, they would get like a tad shorter and a tad shorter. So definitely not IBJJF legal.
Right.
But did you see that article about? Again, it was on April Fool's, so I don't know if they're screwing with
about
people
the
or
no
not.
testing?
Yeah, was that an April Fool's thing or was it an actual?
I read the article and it was kind of like, well, no one else is testing,
so why should we test for steroids?
And I'm like, sure, I guess,
Yeah.
But right now, it's all this $46 million,
Oh, the settlement
deal.
So I didn't watch the video. Did you watch the video?
I saw the video and then we discussed it in a class, and it seemed to be a back take and at the same time, Fred used the term. It was a role or something. So long story short, one guy.
So it was a white belt.
Yeah, with an instructor.
Was rolling.
Right, in Nogi.
Got injured.
Right.
And then sued and just won $46 million.
That's right. They settled for that much. So, and it seemed to be just like the guy on the bottom rolled one way while the other guy rolled the other way. And, apparently it was initially paralysis and then partial paralysis. And the guy, and this incident happened a few years ago.
But it just got settled now.
But it just got settled now or It's in the news now. So,
man, that's a hard one though.
But listen, it's in the States. It's a large lump sum. It's in California with a high level gym.
Right.
So there's a lot of nuances that we're not privy to.
Right.
It's not like, again, I'm not a lawyer. I have no idea, but
it's time to reread your waiver.
That's right. So it's kind of like today, some guy pulls guard or jumps guard, smashes your knee. It's happened. People have gotten injured through jiu-jitsu.
Right. Maybe the difference is it was the instructor, the guy that ran the place. And
again, it's something. I read something about a legal move, this and that.
Because if it happens to just 2 students, I don't think there would be any. Like, would you be able to do anything? Maybe.
Well, again, because in the States, there's different laws in regards to personal liability. And I guess that differs from Canada to the United States and then state to state. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, they write the coffee's too hot on the cups because someone burnt themselves.
Right.
Apparently. Again, this might be, there's, again, nuances to the story which are not there. But
yeah, I'll have to double check that IBJJF article to see if that's actually true about the whole steroid thing. But To be honest with you, like if you're the only one testing and you're doing it so like randomly and not frequently,
It's just interesting that the article came out. Not only is it on
that
April
day,
Fool's, but
yeah.
right after 5 people got like high names got suspended.
right.
You know, it's like if it's an April Fool's joke from the IBJJF,
Yeah.
is distasteful.
Yeah, because of the timing,
Because
right?
of the timing.
Yeah.
You know, if it's not, it's interesting that they do that after they suspend 5 people
Yeah.
for that.
Yeah.
So it's like, but I leave it to you, Ray, to
Yeah, I will investigate and let you know.
to dig deeper.
I try to bait people into that Globetrotters one, where black belts, after 2 years of having your black belt, Christian would give you your rainbow belt.
Oh, I
Did
read
you
that.
see that?
Yes, I saw that.
But then one of the black belts in our chat was like, Ray, do you know what date it is? And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, I do, but
Yeah.
thanks for ruining it. I wanted to start up a conversation because, you know, Christian with the Globetrotters, they always have, you know, they're just, what's fun with them is that they're just having fun.
Right.
Jiu-Jitsu for them is just fun. It's crazy. I went to one of their camps, and that was such an amazing experience. I went to their camps when I was a purple belt. I think it was $1,000. I want to say $1,200 Canadian. It was for a week of jiu-jitsu in Maine, and you slept in a cabin, with a bunch of guys that do jiu-jitsu.
Right.
And every day you would do, you'd have a different instructor almost every hour on the hour, all day, all night, all through the week. It was crazy. It was so much fun. I wish. I like to redo it now. Now being a black belt, I think I'd get a lot more out of it. Whereas before, like some instructors would allow you, most of them do allow you to film their class.
Right.
So I still have all the footage from some great black belts that taught all these cool techniques that I could probably only appreciate now because at Purple, it was too much information.
Right.
Think about it. Like every day, every hour, there's someone throwing new technique
There
at you.
seems to be quite a bit of immersion camps in the States.
Yeah.
know.
These guys really have it going on. I mean, they'll have, they're all over the world. They have one coming up. Man, I don't remember. I saw it today. I don't know where it is, but I think they have like 20 or 25 black belts teaching at this camp, at this week's camp. And
We have 10 in the class.
yeah, I know.
Well,
but the experience of like going away and like,
No, for sure. If your body can take it.
yeah.
And
Well, a lot of the guys were doing like, they do a class or they do 2 classes and then they go fishing.
Right.
Because you're right on the lake, right?
Right.
And then after that, okay, I'll go do, like, you don't have to go to every class.
I think
right?
the origin immersion camps like that,
Mm-hmm.
where there's scheduled classes, there's other activities or things to do on the site,
Mm-hmm.
and you've paid your flat fee or whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's all included, and you want to go, you don't want to go, you want to roll every hour. You want to roll once a day.
Yeah.
You want to not roll and just sit there.
Yeah. And you get to go week's vacation stay in a cabin. You're basically camping for a week.
Right.
For, a little over $1,000 and you get to do jiu-jitsu all day. Yeah. I mean, that's pretty sweet, right? Especially when you're a little older, right? And you have like that routine of a daytime job. You got the kids at home, the wife. It was a nice getaway. It was a great experience. I didn't do it again afterwards, but I'd like to redo it now. I might reach out to Christian and be like, hey, do you need another instructor somewhere?
There's a different angle, yeah.
Yeah. But that's a really cool experience. I wish there were more of them. I don't think there's anything locally. I haven't seen anything locally like that. But
with the ban and with this and that,
right. Yeah.
You don't know.
But now that the ban's up, or should be up on April 6th or somewhere around that date, I think I'm interested to see what's going to happen here in Montreal now.
Right.
For those, again, repeating it, we haven't had legal jiu-jitsu here for 10 years.
Right.
So apparently first week of April, it's going to be legal again to host tournaments here and all that fun stuff. So that should be really great. I miss the super fights, the charity events. That's one good thing. Glenn McKenzie from Gracie, who was with Gracie Baja, I think he's opening up a new academy now. He used to do this fight for charity events, and he would do super fights, get all these sponsors, and they would do super fights all night long, and they would raise money for different charities.
That's good. That's
that was
cool.
pretty cool. Yeah, on a big stage.
See, when I joined, when I started it, Jiu-Jitsu was banned. So this is my baseline.
Right.
So I'm like, nope.
You can only go up from here, right?
We drive to Hawkesbury. That's the Quebec tournament site. So
shout out to Professor Claudio, right,
Yeah.
on the weekend. Second place in his
I think it was Masters Black, whatever division.
second place, and then third in adults, right? Yeah, he did really well. Carl, I'm telling you, that guy. Do you know him by any chance?
I don't know him personally.
Carl Fragna. I hope I'm saying your last name properly. Carl owns and runs Le Local. The Loco for the Anglophones, Jiu-Jitsu here in Montreal. He's got a really good thing going on there too. Carl is like I've rolled with him before. He was affiliated with somebody else. I'm trying to remember who it was. I think it was Luciano.
Okay.
Lucci. I think he was team one, and then they split up. He decided to do his own thing.
Right.
But I rode with him when he was with Luciano, and he's such a monster. It's crazy. I'm glad to see him, the fact that he's still competing and running a jiu-jitsu club, and who knows what else he has going on. But his jiu-jitsu is really good too. But shout out to Claudio, who did.
I've seen Carl roll once, because I think Will rolled against him in a competition, and got the better.
Yeah. Guys, you can look him up on Facebook. His name is Carl, and his last name is Fragnant, and the jiu-jitsu club is Le and Local, so like Local,
right.
Locale, here in Montreal. Right. He's got some cool stuff going on. Yeah, I know
the gym, because when my daughter competes, there's a girl
in her division.
In her division, I think 3 competitions in a row. It was the same person.
Yeah,
they had the same body type. They have the same style.
Okay,
it was.
Yeah, he said he was going to come on the show. I got to reach back out to him. I don't know if he speaks English or not. I can't remember if I spoke English or French to him. Who knows?
Yeah, you figure it out then.
Yeah. It's like one of the...
Auto translate on YouTube, guys.
Yeah. Yeah, for the translate on YouTube, you actually have to manually translate your
text?
all your text and everything. I had somebody in the comments was like, can we get subtitles in French? And I looked it up. I was like, I can't do an hour and a half of typing everything everyone's saying, but that's pretty crappy. But what do you have going on? You said, so you're training 4 times a week now? I think we said last time.
It's, I think it's 5.
5 times a week.
Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday. Yeah, 5.
Yeah. Maybe this was a good point that in our episode we had to scratch. We were talking about how you get... Typically, your roles, you're always getting picked by the black belts and brown belts, and typically all of your roles is with either a
not all,
a lot of them, right?
At least a couple. If we have 4 roles a night, usually at least 1, if not 2, sometimes 3, sometimes 4, but usually 2 are with higher belts,
which is not the norm for a blue belt, right?
I guess that's what I'm told. I thought it was the norm until one time someone mentioned, and goes, oh no, it's not usually like that. I'm like, oh, I don't know, because I get picked and I go, I'm not in the line. I don't know.
And what's your perception on why that happens?
Again, we talked about this last time. The only theory I have is that I think the black belts, or at least the ones that I roll with, they're working on stuff and they want to try stuff, and they're looking for reactions. And they're looking not to get kneed in the face at 8:45 in the evening. So between that combination, or they just like tenderizing me. Maybe that's what it is. No, but I think it's rapport. Part of it might be just rapport, but I think everybody wants to try stuff out, and they want. Maybe I'm giving a textbook reaction because, that's my style is very, for lack of a better term, I'm still learning, so I'm very right angled.
Right.
I'm like, okay, what are you supposed to do at this point? Oh, I'm supposed to put my hand there. Okay, I'll do that.
Good.
So I tell my children often, you can do all the right things and still be on the short end of the stick.
Right.
It's just part of it.
Right.
So, but I think it's that. But I think it just comes down to they don't want spazzes.
Yeah.
And we were talking how a purple belt or a brown belt is developing their game, and they're developing their game. Their objectives are different.
Yeah.
You know, white belts and blue belts. White belts are trying to figure out everything. And then we're left. So depending on where we are on the spectrum in terms of, am I about to get kneed in the head or, not?
Yeah.
It's interesting. Fred was talking to someone today about it, how there could be the high speed, the frantic rolls, and there could be the chess-like rolls, where, sometimes you put a grip in or you do a movement, and it doesn't have to be 100 miles per hour, but you know where you're going, they know where you're going.
Right.
So it's like, okay, now what?
Yeah.
I'm going to do this. Okay, now what? I'm going to do that. So maybe that's what they're looking for.
Right.
There are some black belts that come full speed. I mean, the ones that usually pick me are, apparently, from what I've heard, what I've told, I think that's the way jiu-jitsu is supposed to be rolled. So it's like heavy and grindy, and there's no fast toreandos happening when we're rolling.
But not everyone's like that.
Everyone's like that. But you don't know. You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I think that's it. I mean, you pick me. You're a black belt.
I do. I think you're. I think blue belts are a safe bet for higher belts, where it's you'll know there's still a challenge there. They're not going to be as spazzy as a white belt.
Right.
They actually know some technique, and you'll be able to work on things.
Right.
I'll be able to work on things, and we're both getting something out of it. Right. It's a beautiful, like, it's almost a perfect role for a higher belt. Purple belts are like that too. It's like you want that same type, except you're going to get a caliber a little higher when you take a purple belt. But a purple belt is, technically savvy, definitely shouldn't be spazzy.
But again, we have a spectrum. Like you mentioned before, promotions are twice a year, right?
Yeah.
The line in May and the line in August, because the promotions are usually mid-year and Christmas time.
Right.
The dynamic changes.
Yeah.
And then even today I was reading something. I was reading our curriculum on the wall, and I was reading the purple to brown sequence. And I don't know any of it, but I'm just reading the names, the titles of the moves. And in my head, I'm like, okay. I'm identifying the stalls or the walls that I hit with my knowledge. And it's like, okay, there's the next part. Because that's what the realization was when I started doing the blue to purple curriculum. It's like, I'm not getting the underhook when I'm in top half. Just get the overhook. There's this whole other sequence, right? Sequence here, amazing.
Yeah.
So now it's like, you like that. I just found out there's a whole margarita guard sequence on the bottom half of the purple belt sequence.
Yeah.
And I only know this because our teens are doing it. So I'm like, they were doing it in class, and I'm like, they asked me a question. I go, I have no idea what you're doing. So I don't have an answer for you, Yeah. And then I'm like, it's in the purple to brown sequence. So I think that's also something where the reactions go to a certain level because you don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you have a lot of, again, you're splitting your time between gi and no gi, right?
Let's say yes.
Yes. No, but you're doing more gi than
I do more gi. So I prefer gi.
Right.
Just because. But so in our school Saturdays we have a fundamentals class where it's basically a open question class where we go around, everybody asks questions, and the instructor Fred on Saturdays and on Sundays now will field the questions, put together an answer, and so if you're rolling and it's like, I'm not able to finish the arm triangle, or I'm always stuck when I knee slide, I'm never able to finish the pass, I get to this point. Very specific questions. They'll deconstruct and reconstruct scenario and give answers, which is beneficial to you. And I find that a lot of times people will ask questions and you're like, okay, you realize that other people hit the same snags as you.
Yeah.
So
At all belt levels too,
at all
right?
belt levels, yeah. It's open,
Yeah.
and we have all belt levels show up, so that's good. But after the fundamentals class, there's an open mat, which is in Nogi, and I'm already at the gym. So I'm like, okay. So I do that.
And they convinced you to stay, basically.
Today, I didn't feel like staying, and Will was like, well, you're already here. I'm like, right. So,
I mean, it's one more hour, right?
No, but usually, so Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, I do gi classes. And then Saturday and Sunday, I do the fundamental classes and the no-gi classes.
Right.
And if my wife lets me, I've been to a handful of Tuesday no-gi classes, but very small handful.
Yeah.
And then the kids classes that I do.
We talked also about note-taking.
Right.
Which I wanted to bring up again, actually. I actually found some more notes that I took when I was a blue belt, which is crazy to read them at where I am now.
Right.
I was like, oh yeah, it's true. I should probably do that, right? And I'm listening to myself.
Some of it is like, I'm sure, Ray, you're like, oh, I don't believe that I had to ask that question.
Yeah, exactly.
But other parts are like, oh crap,
I forgot that.
Oh, that's right. That's true.
Yeah.
You know,
but you're still taking little
notes. I take notes. So like in the beginning, it was like, again, because of my right-angled brain, I wanted context. So, and I'm like, how am I going to remember all this stuff?
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it was like taking notes on, like, I have like a page on scissor sweeps, you know, collar and sleeve grip on the same side and this and that, which it's like, oh, now it's back to the shoelace analogy. You know, I'm writing down bunny ears and this and that.
Do you do like little stick figures too?
In the beginning, yeah, stick figures, because I never did martial arts growing up. And I never did individual sports. I played football, team sport, you know. So all the little grips and this and that, where as you progress, you're kind of like, okay, there's some fundamental structures when you understand it makes it easier. But in the beginning, it's just overwhelming, at least for me. So I would take notes. Now what would happen is someone says something in class or in fundamentals or, you know, and it's like, that's crap. I've been wasting the last 3 weeks of my life here. So I'll just go write it down, more because I find when I write it down, it's just a second way of imprinting it and like getting the neurons to kind of fire.
Right. Yeah.
You know? And then on the flip side, sometimes people see me writing stuff down and they're like, oh, I should do that too. I'm like, yeah, you should.
Yeah.
Especially us, you know, there's so much knowledge. It's the same reason why I'm not big on watching instructionals. Because I'm like, I already have enough stuff to figure out.
You have a whole notebook to look over, right?
But on the flip side, like today, I was on Instagram. There's a guy, and they're like, "Oh, crazy move, clock choke," and I'm like, "Wait a minute, you mean like white belt sequence?" What we refer to those people who aren't BTT people watching, we refer to a lot of stuff as white belt curriculum, like the white belt one, the blue belt one, like we refer back to our curriculum. So it was just a clock choke, but it was like with the captions and the
you got music going
and this and that, and you know,
yeah.
I'm like, oh, okay, it's a clock choke, you know, or interesting variations to something. I'm like,
that's also in the curriculum, right?
Yeah, it's just a block in the curriculum. I'm like, so. That kind of tells me that, that's good. We're pretty thorough in terms of fundamentals with the curriculum. And at the same time, when there's new stuff, because, you know, it's evolving. Yeah. You know, that stuff gets addressed at times.
What do you find you're having the biggest issue with right now as a blue belt, like position-wise? Like where you find like where you think you're going to have to put in the most work?
I don't like standing up.
Okay.
Or I shouldn't say that. I have a hard time getting up.
From your knees.
I know very well that like if I'm bottom half, you know, if I flip over on my knees, keep that one leg, grab, stand up, I'm in a single.
But you're just lazy.
I'm like either between being lazy or excuses with back issues or neck, whatever, you know, or neck.
Yeah.
You know, so I might be sheltering myself behind mobility issues, but when I started, you know, like some of our purple belts at the time, I had a hard time shoulder rolling. and I spent time
Right.
trying to learn how to shoulder roll. You know,
Right.
so and I think I'm still trying to figure out. People go, well, what's your game? I'm like,
I'm a blue belt.
Not
I don't
dying.
have one. Yeah.
you know,
I want to try to make class tomorrow.
not getting home. You know, that's my game. So, you know, so it's just trying to figure out, like, you know, there's certain things I prefer, you know, grindy and slow and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, some of it is simply like, you know what, I'm going to try to play on the other side today, you know, just because,
Yeah.
you know, which doesn't last very long because
No.
you go back to your preferred side. But even realizing, so when I help with the kids classes, I'm always like, make sure you do both sides because you don't know which side's your good side,
Right.
you know. And then one day you're like, oh, I always do it this way, and then you still don't realize that might still not be your good side.
Right.
So I was doing something in fundamental class, and we did one side and the other side, and he's like, oh, so much tighter on this side. And in my head, I'm like, oh, really? That's the side I never do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I get what, you know, Fabio Hollanda, you know, who runs BTT here in Canada. We're lucky he's here with us in Montreal. You know, what he said a few belt tests ago, you know, maybe it was a year and a half
Something like
to
that.
2 years when we kind of changed the way that we do belt tests and all that stuff. By belt tests, it's really just, you know, showing up and doing curriculum,
Right,
showing
right.
people that you know what the technique is. It's not really a test, you know. But when he gave his speech about, you know, being able to do everything on the side that you
prefer.
feel more comfortable,
Right.
because the idea is to always bring your opponent to the side you want them, or in the
Right.
position that you want them to be in, and you're always coming back to that same side. And when I think about it, I don't train both sides. I never really did. I would say when we first started, and it was maybe all the way till purple, Fred would make us do, you know, 2-3
sides.
times on one side, 2-3 times on the other. Or if it was drills day, I mean, you're obviously working both sides.
Right.
And that kind of faded pretty quickly, I would say, like through purple. And I technically only drill things on the same side, knowing that that's where I'm going to bring people anyways. It's not horrible to know, you know, how to keep a half guard on the wrong side or the other side.
Well,
what I
like you
call the
said,
wrong
you're
side.
bringing people to a side.
Yeah.
So it's very level dependent.
Yeah.
I'll end up on a side. So I didn't really.
Should probably figure out what
I
to
didn't
do.
pick it. So I know I was, you know, I remember when I was rolling with one of our black belts, Felipe. This was when he was still a brown belt, and he would tell me, he grabs the pants when he's in guard, so that when someone gets up, he has one free leg instead of both.
Okay.
So he tends to start passing on the side that Felipe wants him to pass or
Right.
attempt to pass.
Okay.
Kind of thing. You know,
Right.
like these are things that as white belts and blue belts, you're just trying to.
Yeah, you're not thinking of that at all.
Someone's still telling you to stand up to pass.
Right.
You know, forget which side kind of thing. you
Right.
know? But we, like, again, when we're doing technique, we, depending on how lazy we are that day, but often we'll do both sides. You know, and we joke around when the purple belts come on and do blue belt sequence. Oh, they do one side and that's it. It's like, it's okay, you're a purple belt. When quota's filled, you know. But, you know, again, even in our classes, it's not like the instructor's walking around and making sure you're doing this and that. We're working on curriculum.
Yeah.
The onus is on you to ask your question.
There's a support system around. If you have a question, you ask it. Yeah.
If something is like fundamentally off, usually your peers address it. You know, it was Chris saying it in his when he was here, how we're creating teachers at the same time because yes,
That was a great point, by the way.
you know, like yeah, and it's taken for granted to verbalize simple. I shouldn't say simple, more fundamental in terms of, and fundamental meaning the foundation of progress, not fundamental as in this is baby stuff.
Right.
It's the foundation of where you're going.
Yeah.
Being able to verbalize it makes you understand it. So you know, there's a joke where Fred's like, grab the left hand, the other left, the other left. You know, it's like, and I think we've all gone through it.
Right.
It's kind of like that USB key. It's always the third time. So,
but you're also teaching or helping to teach the kids classes,
That's right,
right? So
yeah.
I mean, that's also helping you, right? Kind of understand the fundamentals.
It makes I'm lucky in terms of timing because we have a cohort of youth 2 kids which go up to the age of 11, 12 basically, and then teen kids which are 12 to 16, 17, who are doing the same belt curriculum as I am. And some are even beyond. They're doing, like I said, they're doing
purple to
purple
brown.
belt.
Yeah.
But, there's now a big group. At the time when I was a white belt, there was a big group doing white belt stuff. And now as a blue belt, there's a big group doing blue belt stuff. So when they ask questions, now I'm able to answer their questions. But in the beginning, whoever was teaching, like the head instructor, would come and fill in the gaps. So our curriculum, maybe we mentioned this, our curriculum has 30 things, let's say, listed. But it's not really 30 things.
It's technically 60, right?
It's like 60 or 90 things because between each moves, there's nuances. And so during those classes where either the instructor is giving specific instruction to a pair or during what we call the learning square where we work on a specific technique for that week for the kids classes, those nuances are exposed. So that's been a big benefit to me. Like I joke with other parents who happen to train and have kids. I'm like, you should put on your gi and show up to class because if not for anything else, you pick things up.
Right.
You fill in the gaps.
And there's a family discount, so why not, right?
Well, listen, like you asked me how many gis I own, the number of gis I own that are mine are 3.
Right.
The number of gis I own, I think
everything.
I'm at 4 plus my wife has one. I think I'm at like 11.
Are the kids still as into jiu-jitsu as they were when they started, or
I think
was there a dip at some point and they had to kind of have to reset, or
they're more enthused now because they've reached they're not on the back of the line, they're in the front of the line.
Okay.
So that I think makes a difference. So they're all yellow belts now.
Okay.
And they all do well. And more recently, my oldest has been doing pretty well in competitions that he's going to compared to when he started. And even my other 2, the younger 2, have done, they're kind of finding their game, meaning that there's positions where it's not random. They go to positions.
Right.
So like my daughter today, they all had class today. So she was rolling with someone and I was there and I go, if you submit them 3 times, I'll give you $5.
That's motivation.
And she goes to me.
You're welcome to give me that motivation. Anytime,
she goes to me. Does it have to be? Do they have to be the different submissions? Because she likes Americanas and that's what she does. Okay. She ended up getting 2 of them, and I'm like, oh, you ran short. You ran out of time.
Right.
And then she was rolling with someone else, so I'm like, if you do 3 scissor sweeps, I will give you $5. Now, and why? Because she doesn't do scissor sweeps. She doesn't. It's something she doesn't do.
Right.
So I'm thinking, I can give her $5, whatever. And she was rolling with someone, and she hit one. But I see her where she structured her guard, grabbed her grips.
She's really trying.
And she hit it. And then she did it a second time. And when she did the second time, she swept the girl, ended up mounting her. And it looked like they kept rolling, and she ended up back in my daughter's guard, and she swept her again. And I'm looking at her, I'm like, you know what?
Cha-ching.
I'm like, that was a little dirty.
Yeah. She purposely went back on her back, right?
And then when she's telling me, I go, no. She did a mount. She grabbed my arm and did the mount escape, and I ended up back in her guard. I'm like,
she's smart.
But just the fact that they're able to. Now they're able to focus and do technique because they're aware.
Yeah.
But sometimes they're not in the mood. I was telling another parent where we go to enough jiu-jitsu so they train 3 times a week at least. We do enough jiu-jitsu that if they miss a class, it's not the end of the world.
Right. Do you guys do any at home together?
So during COVID, I bought mats and we were having online classes at home. So the kids were doing the youth class, and my wife and I were doing like an adult class where we would do curriculum together. And then, there was like 6 pairs or 4 pairs online with an instructor there. And we would do curriculum in the same way. We'd do curriculum and ask the question to the camera. And then my oldest started training with me during that time. And he was still small. He was like 11 and I was 210 pounds. Mm-hmm. So it's now he has like a top pressure resilience, because I didn't know. I was an unbeknownst white belt smashing my child, but
poor kid.
So there are times, at one point my wife doesn't like rolling. She likes jiu-jitsu. Right. She doesn't like rolling.
She likes the technical aspect.
She likes it, and she knows the white belt curriculum, so there was one point where, so Saturdays the kids go to Armenian school and I go to class. So before my class, we were doing curriculum at home, just to go through, we would clear day 1 in half an hour, which is decent time, So do we do jiu-jitsu at home? Everything's jiu-jitsu.
Right.
I find that now as a parent, a lot of my analogies are go back to jiu-jitsu. Mm-hmm. When you're getting smashed, this and that, when that crossface is coming, when just to emphasize that struggle, that suck.
Right. Things
suck. You got to deal with it.
Yeah.
And I think I was saying it last time, or I was saying it the first time I was here. I was new to jiu-jitsu with kids who were new to jiu-jitsu. Mm-hmm. So we were on the same team and we have the same instructors and the same curriculum, same uniform, same coaches, and we're going through the same struggles.
Yeah.
So there's that kind of relate to it.
Yeah.
So
tell everybody about, just because I keep doing this with every guest and I find it really interesting. And I already know the answer because we already did this, but tell everybody what your eating habits are, by the way.
So you're going to laugh because someone came to me on Saturday and said, I listened to one of the other podcasts and apparently all you do is eat a cheese sandwich or something. Okay. So to clarify, Ray asked, what are your eating habits?
Right.
So
for someone who trains 4 to 5 times a week.
4 or 5 times a week. Okay.
Right.
So most days I don't eat breakfast. Mm-hmm. And by most days, I mean every day. I don't eat breakfast. I'm at the office by 7 a.m. So I'm awake at 6. I get dressed. I go straight to the office.
Coffee.
I have a coffee, So, and then most days I don't eat lunch because I'm busy. I got things to do.
Right.
I used to maybe take a banana with me or something, but whatever. Usually I'm not. And over time, it's turned out that my body's not hungry. So anyone who does intermittent fasting, it sucks in the beginning. And then eventually you get into this routine where you just don't eat at certain times. And that's okay. So now I haven't eaten lunch and I haven't eaten breakfast. So on Tuesdays and Thursdays, when I leave work, the kids' class starts at 5:45. So I leave the office at 5 to get home, to grab my gi, to go to class. So on those days, because I don't like eating before class.
I don't think anybody does.
Some people, I
can't do it.
Yeah. So I like training on an emptier stomach. So if class is at 7:45, usually in the evenings, so around 5 o'clock or 5:30 when I get home, because there's days where I'm at the kids' class, and then my wife picks up the kids, and I
stick around,
and I stay to do class. So I grab a tortilla and I put some a
cheese,
slice of Havarti in it or something, and it's just something to eat.
Just something, right? Right.
So it's not that I eat cheese sandwiches and that powers me. I also find I make a coffee and I have a little coffee thermos, and I take that and I used to take water, and I used to take water with protein in it and all this stuff. I just take my coffee.
Coffee's not food, right?
No, I know, but it's good. And I used to laugh because Corrado used to always come with these Starbucks coffee things.
Yeah.
And that was his beverage. I'm like, you're drinking cold coffee before class in the middle of the night. But I'm like, oh yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah. Mark does that too. Mark St. Marie.
Yeah.
He, Professor Mark St. Marie. He drinks a lot of coffee before class too. I don't know if it's just the morning. I feel like I've seen him drink coffee, before other classes also.
But sometimes you might just like coffee.
Yeah.
You know, like me, I have coffee at work, not because don't talk to me because I don't have a mug that says
haven't had my coffee
don't ask me
or-
because of
right,
coffee.
right.
I just happen to like coffee.
Yeah.
So then, but to finish my answer, I'll have something, just to have something, a few hours before, and then when I get home at 10 or 10:30,
You'll eat something.
I'll have a meal.
Right.
You know.
And you could digest that right before going to bed?
Yeah, I guess so.
What time do you go to bed at night?
So I'm usually one of the last people to leave the gym. So most nights it's 10 or 10:30 by the time we finish. And yes, class finishes at 9:15. But yeah, it's 10 or 10:30 when we leave the mats.
You're home by 11?
No, I'm 5 minutes away. So if
Okay,
I leave at
okay.
10:30, I'm home by 10:35, whatever.
Okay.
But I'll go home. I shower at home. So it's around 11 o'clock that I eat. And then usually 12, 1, I'll go to bed because watch TV with my wife.
But then you're at work for 7 the next
And then
day.
I'm working at 7. I don't sleep enough.
Okay.
So I sometimes wonder, hey, if I slept more and ate properly, I'd be amazing.
All right. Maybe if you slept more, you'd be hungrier.
I'd be hungry. No, so it's just the routine, you know,
Right.
like
And supplement-wise, you were saying that you take a
I take creatine.
little bit of creatine, right?
You know, maybe I should take some
Power for
Powerful
All. There you
creatine
go.
monohydrate.
Yeah.
You know, sponsor of the Let's Talk Jiu Jitsu podcast.
Yeah.
And then, you know, like today, for example, after jiu-jitsu, I made a protein shake, which was just 2 scoops of protein and a banana.
Are you still doing the yogurt thing that I suggested?
I've used it because I end up having a meal, you know, but if I've eaten or it's like a weekend day, I want something to eat, I'll do it because I liked it.
Yeah.
So Ray said, you know, scoop of protein, some oatmeal, and a cup of yogurt.
Yep. Greek yogurt.
Yeah, mix that up.
Right before bed. And this was some fitness guy. Again, there's so many fitness guys. It was a guy, so a trainer, and I don't know how we started talking. We're talking martial arts. Anyways, I don't know. And I asked him a question. I was like, hey, like, you know, for protein, is it good to take a protein shake like right before bed, or like
Right.
like I don't want to go the whole night and not be feeding my body anything. And he was like, well, don't just take a protein shake with milk because your body's going to absorb it right away and then you're done and you're still not feeding everything overnight. He was the one who suggested taking a bowl of Greek yogurt. So let's say a cup of Greek yogurt,
Right.
and then mixing a scoop of protein powder, and then putting some oats. Apparently the Greek yogurt is like a slow release protein.
So when my wife had gestational diabetes,
Mm-hmm.
so she was diet controlled, and we met with an endocrinologist and a nutritionist.
Sure.
So basically, what it comes down to that there are certain carbs and certain fats and certain proteins which are basically your insulin goes in peaks and valleys.
Mm-hmm.
So depending on when you eat certain things, that will plateau these peaks and valleys. This is why, you know, you don't take something which is high in carbs. It gives you a quick burst of energy,
Right.
and the protein is slow release and stuff like this. So he's probably just balancing that stuff out. People ask about the nutrition thing. The reality that calories are calories. So depending on what your objective is, like you said, you said you go to the gym, but you don't have a specific objective.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which made me interesting. It was interesting to me because you asked a nutrition question, which should be directed to specific
To my
objectives, you know, and then your training, be it volume, intensity, the weights, the sets, the reps.
Yeah.
It's all very dependent on what are you trying to do.
Yeah.
Are you trying to get stronger? Are you trying to get bigger? Are you trying to
Yeah, I was
get
saying
leaner?
in the wintertime, I honestly just weight train just to do something outside of jiu-jitsu.
Right.
Because there's so much snow here all the time in the wintertime. You can't do anything outside. So I like to do some type of physical activity outside of jiu-jitsu.
Right.
And in the wintertime, I just weight train. But I honestly, I never have a plan. like sometimes I'll do 2 muscle groups. Sometimes I'll just go in and do one the entire time I'm there. I usually don't stay longer than 35 minutes. I purposely go to the gym to hit the sauna. Like I'll do 10 to 15 minutes of like 90-degree sauna, and I'll try to do that multiple times in a week. My goal is to go to the gym to go to the sauna. But I said to myself, since I'm going there and there's a gym and I want to do something else than just jiu-jitsu on the side, let's lift up some weights and so on.
So the only thing is that if you're getting any results, it just means that if it was structured, you would get more results.
Oh, it's crazy. Right. Yeah. But I noticed it. If I go to the gym now and I do 2 weeks of structured, just like heavy weights, 10 to 12 reps, I pick a muscle group. In 2 weeks, I come home and I take off my shirt and my wife's like, you're going to the gym. Like it's very noticeable.
So the reason I'm saying this, it comes again with the nutrition aspect.
Yeah.
Most of us, when we talk nutrition, is because we want to lose weight.
Yeah.
Which is basically a calorie deficit.
Yeah.
So all the macros aside, how much protein do you take? How much this do you take? And again, I'm not a nutritionist.
Yeah. I have a guy coming on for that.
Right.
Yeah.
But if you put in more than you take out, you're going to gain weight.
Yeah.
Now, that being said, there are, like I remember I had done Weight Watchers back in the day.
Does that still exist?
It does. I guess it does.
Okay.
They've changed the program over the years. Okay. And what it does is forget the fact that, yes, you might end up buying their bread and their cakes and stuff like this.
You're counting calories, no?
Well, the system that they have simplified the calorie count.
Okay.
Instead of you counting calories and macros, their algorithm assigns points to their foods, and those you count the points.
Okay.
So it's kind of like translated for you. But the one thing that people don't realize or never talk about is that the first rule that they talk about is you want to eat until you're a 6 or 7 on 10 full.
Okay.
You don't want to be like, because people are like, oh, this program's so dumb. You can have as much seafood and shellfish as you want. Mm-hmm. Well, if I eat 1,000 pounds of shrimp, or I can have, it was unlimited vegetables and fruits. So if I eat all these fruits, it's all this sugar and this and that. Right. Okay. Sure. Yes. True. But the program, and again, I can care less, but the program identifies that it's supposed to help you understand how your body feels.
Right.
So you want to be full enough, but always a tinge hungry. Mm-hmm. And if you do that, it's your way of dictating that you've eaten enough, but you can eat more. And it's to teach you portion control. Someone who has portion control and good genetics and good eating habits and this and that probably is not going to use the Weight Watcher program.
Right.
So coming into someone who counts macros and counts calories and does this and goes to the gym and has a certain lifestyle and, to turn around and say, this program, this and that. I'm like, well, it wasn't for you. And at the end of the day, it's also a business. Let's not pretend that everybody who's on Instagram is there for the good of people.
Right.
Let's remove all the monetization and let's see how many are left.
Yeah.
No disrespect,
Right.
But, and what you were saying about you met a guy about the yogurt and eating at night. The other problem is that, hey, what do you want? Because I'll find you an article that tells you that.
Exactly.
Wine is good for you. Wine is bad for you. Chocolate's good for you. Chocolate's bad for you.
And I keep doing the yogurt thing because honestly, it tastes good.
That's it.
And I wake up in the morning and I feel like I'm not as hungry in the morning. So I'll have like less bread, right, which is, again, supposed to be good, right? So I really go with the whole like, do I feel good when I eat this, or do I feel good while I'm doing this? Does it make me happy? And I kind of stick to that. Like I really like digging into, like research and listening to podcasts about, all the nutrition stuff and this and that. But I'm not so regimented in like a gym routine or like tracking my fitness or my calories or my intake.
Me too. I used to lift much more, but now that I train, I'm at the gym. Sometimes I tell myself, maybe I should be lifting more weights. But like if I'm at the gym, if the class is an hour and a half, let's say we slack half the time. Okay. Let's say I just count the 5 times 5 minutes of rolling.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's 20 to 25 minutes of rolling, and that's 5 times a week. That's still almost,
Still good cardio.
It's almost 2 hours of intense training.
Yeah.
So is it justifying that I'm doing enough? Whatever. I'm doing enough for me, I guess.
Yeah. And you might feel that at a certain point in time, you might be like, oh, maybe I should probably lift up some weights, and maybe I'll do one less class of jiu-jitsu per week.
Some of it is timing,
right? Yeah.
Some of it is, where am I in my jiu-jitsu journey, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I enjoy going to jiu-jitsu. I mean, I look forward to it.
Yeah.
There was I think it was on the first podcast I was saying, my kids go to Armenian school on Saturdays. I still will go to the gym and still help out with the kids' classes. My kids aren't there. I don't get paid. I'm just a volunteer parent.
Yeah.
Just because I enjoy the environment, you know. So that's
and
people.
The environment in jiu-jitsu is a little different than the environment in the gym also, right?
Yeah. So there's that. In regards to the nutrition thing or the macros thing or it's important, of course,
but everyone's going to be different.
That's it.
Right.
I guess the only one that I kind of tell myself, which I never stick to, is to anything which would alleviate joint inflammation, which is like the sugars.
Right.
Not the apples and the bananas. The
like processed sugar.
Processed sugars.
Yeah.
So, well, we'll see.
We'll see. Just keep not eating, and we'll see what happens.
That's it. That's perfect.
Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you.
Again.
Technically for the third time.
Technically the third time.
You know.
And you're welcome back anytime, too.
Perfect.
You've been listening to Let's Talk Jiu-Jitsu with Raymond Terrence. Go follow us on Facebook and Instagram. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube page. Turn on notifications and press that like button. Thanks for listening. We'll see you on the mats.